Hey everyone, it's Austin Solomon, the Solomon Group at Coldwell Banker. Today we're talking about problems with price per square foot. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of The Real Problems with Price per Square Foot. This is going to be a good one. In real estate, agents, buyers, homeowners are always looking for quick and easy ways to come up with property values, and one of them that gets tossed around a lot and probably tossed around incorrectly a lot of times is price per square foot. So examples would be a buyer would say, hey, this property is at $110 a square foot and this one's at $160. Austin, why is that? Why is there such a big discrepancy? A lot of times this kind of online on the websites will have a little area where it shows you the price per square foot, and it's not a bad reference point, but a lot of times it's not good to put too much weight on that, and here's why. There's so many different variables when coming up with a property's value. There's location, there's the lot size, there's the quality of construction, there's updates, all those different pieces which can go into that price per square foot. But more so where I see it probably the most tossed around the most incorrectly is when you have a basement that's finished versus like a home with a finished basement and a home without a finished basement. So let me give you an example. There's 1,000 square foot home. It's a ranch style house with an unfinished basement, and for example, we're going to say it's $150,000. Okay, so $150,000 house, 1,000 square feet. $150 a square foot. Great. Now, let's say that homeowner is looking to, increase their square footage. So what do? They go to Menards, they pick up some drop ceiling, or what would be ceiling tiles, and the materials for a nice ceiling. Ceiling tile would be a much cheaper way than, for example, drywall. And they get paneling for the walls and the cheapest commercial carpet that they can find to roll out on the concrete floor. So the materials to finish this basement are, let's say, for example, $8,000. So you grab the materials, you go home, you roll out the carpet, you just glue paneling on the walls, and you install your drop ceiling. Okay, so for $8,000, you technically, finished 1,000 square. You have a finished basement now. Now that finish, just added 1,000 square feet, and now your home is 2,000 square feet. You doubled the size of your house for $8,000. You didn't really double the size of your home. You just added. You doubled what would be considered finished square feet. So now if you use that same $150 a square foot, number, well, then your home would be worth $300,000. Well, clearly you can see that logic doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because when you go and finish a basement, you can't use you can't use that same price per square foot number when it comes to finished square feet in the basement, but you see it all the time because you see that number calculated by the total square footage. Well, if a property doesn't have a finished basement, you can't really use that as a comparison. And this example is why. So in general, homes that don't have finished basements, they're going to have a much higher price per square foot. Why? Because it doesn't cost that much to finish a basement relative to add an additional square foot, say on the side of your house. So I once even had a real estate agent, had wrote an offer on a property of mine and attached a market analysis where they had, definitively came up with the price per square foot of homes in the surrounding area, and to which they consulted their buyer that they would only pay X amount. I was the listing agent working with the seller. And even that real estate agent had a variety of different homes, some of which had, again, paneling, old asbestos tile in the basement as a floor covering, and very cheaply finished basements, and they were using that to advise a buyer on what the price per square foot should be on the home that I had for sale, which in that case just had an unfinished basement. So even real estate agents get this mixed up a lot of times. So again, this is one of the biggest ways that price per square foot can be problematic. Another extreme example too, just to kind of show you guys an example, would be lot values. So a lot of times, people forget that the lots, the value of the land that the house is underneath also would skew potential, price per square foot numbers. So for example, a property that's on the lake obviously is going to have a higher price per square foot than a home that's just on a normal lot. The other thing too is price per square foot. It varies a lot between styles of homes. It's a lot cheaper to build up than to build out, and so in general, you'll see, for builders, it's more expensive to build a ranch style home or a one-story versus a two-story. When you're talking about, again, it's cheaper to build up than it is to build out. Then you have like bi-levels, which again, the foundations aren't as deep into the ground, and so the excavation costs are less, and so those properties are a little bit, easier to, not easier, but a little less expensive in excavation. So the price per square foot of those homes are less than potentially the ranch. So there's just a lot of different variations when it comes to styles too, when looking at, comparing price per square foot. Another piece, so when does it become valuable? If you have a lot of uniform homes in a, subdivision or in an area, for example, there's a few subdivisions in our Wausau area where a lot of the homes are very similar, and they may have 5 to 10 different layouts of homes that were mass built very quickly, not very quickly I should say, but built over the course of 5 to 10 years, and they're very similar homes. Like you might have 25 of the same homes in a subdivision spread out, and in that case, looking at the price per square foot would be beneficial because they're very uniform. So there you go. So price per square foot, just to kind of recap, when you're looking at that number, you have to be very cautious. Is it talking about price per total square foot? Is it just talking about above ground square feet where the basements aren't finished? So there's some of the cautions that when you're tossed around those numbers, just to be cautious on. So thanks for tuning in on this week's episode of The Real, and please join me on the next one.